Hi, everybody. Welcome to Just Gaming Tingz Podcast, episode 11. Oh my god, we're here. It's December 19th, and my name is Ruby. I'm joined with Jam. Hi.
Hi.
Koga.
Hi.
Hello.
Very aggressive hi on my end.
Hi.
Hi, I'm here. Hi. And Spin, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, the Just Gaming Tingz podcast, we will bring you an all queer perspective on video games, gaming news, and nerdy stuff every Saturday live on twitch.tv/ Just Gaming Tingz with a Z, of course, at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and later on today on YouTube and your favorite podcast services, y'all. We have a lot to talk about. But first, our very own Spin has a little update on the Game Awards from last week's episode.
All right, so before we get into our news stories, I thought it would be fun to go through our predictions episode from the Game Awards. Since all of us were there and we kind of did we kind of picked out games that we thought would win in each category.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through and tallied up all of our scores. So here's our results. In drum roll. In fifth, we have Jam with 7 correct predictions.
Congratulations. Lucky 7.
Yeah.
In third/fourth, we have me and Koga tied with 8 correct predictions.
1 point apart. Still good. Still good.
We love to see it.
In second, we have Ruby with 9 correct predictions.
I tried.
And I will also add that Ruby was the only one who correctly predicted Game of the Year.
Yeah.
We were hoping for different.
We were all hoping for different, but I remember being like, y'all, I don't know. I think The Last of Us is gonna do it, whether we like it or not.
We knew it was gonna win, but
yeah,
it should.
We just didn't want to believe. And, and our winner is Chalora with 10 points. 10
yes, Chalora with the double digits.
Exactly.
Killing it.
Yes, Laura.
By the way, we miss you, Chalora.
We miss you.
But...
Yes, Dream Queen Con.
Yeah, but she'll be back next week. We miss her.
Yeah, she'll be back soon. She's busy being amazing and booked and busy with Stream Queens Con.
Busy.
So yeah.
Yeah, but if y'all missed a predictions episode or our thoughts on like everything that won, we do have both of those episodes up on YouTube with all of the thoughts on the Game Awards, so y'all can watch those. But we have some news stories to get into. Koga, if you want to take it away with our first one.
In our new segment called Just Headline Tingz.
Adorable. We're amazing.
Twitch decided to ban simp, incel, and more in a new harassment policy overhaul, if we'll call it that. Have an article that's from GameSpot. Words like simp and incel will be banned from Twitch streams and comment sections, and revamp conduct policies that outline clearer guidelines on what is and isn't harassment. In a blog about this change, Twitch writes to the new rules are going to effect because the company prioritizes minimizing harm to our users over freedom of expression, and we will limit some expressions with the goal of preventing and protecting users from hateful behavior and harassment. Mm-hmm. The new hateful conduct and harassment.
Go on.
Continue.
I can't take it seriously. The new hateful conduct and harassment policy goes into effect January 22nd, and along with banning of a bunch of derogatory words, the new change impose harsher restrictions for violating the rules. This includes infinite bans, channel timeouts, and user suspensions.
Well,
So
Well.
what do you all feel about these updated content policies? Do you
ugh.
oh goodness. We'll go ahead and start with Ruby. How do you feel about this?
I have many thoughts and opinions. This was actually a part of an event that took place on Twitch this week called Twitch Town Hall. And they had I thought it was so funny that they had essentially a handful of white people, cis white people, talking to everyone about diversity and harassment and the things that underrepresented communities go through and their solutions to all of that. And apparently, it's so interesting to me because first, it sounds so ridiculous that you have to tell people what is and what isn't harassment. First of all, like, to me, that's already a moment, right? And then you go into banning these words when you don't even have systems in place right now to ban words like slurs, like actual slurs that people use and hear on this platform, and slurs that people make their usernames out of, and problematic expressions. And the town hall was literally happening, and someone literally followed me within those like 2 hours or something with like a transphobic username. So I think it's ridiculous that they're like, oh yeah, incel is such an insult, you know, we need to stop people from using it. Like, okay, like to use our one of our viewers in chat, Dextralicious, said protecting straight men from being insulted. Do we really need that? do we need
Apparently. Apparently they're all just apparently we're just assaulting them and attacking them constantly. You know,
I just feel like these changes are going to just do so much for the very vulnerable cishet white men community, and it's just really just thanks so much, Twitch, for protecting them in this time. Like, they really need it.
Thank you so much.
I love it. I love this for them. I love this for them. This is what they needed. This is everything that has ever needed to be done. Like, literally, they're under attack constantly.
Yeah, they're truly the ones who need protection.
Yeah,
sarcasm.
Yeah, not these other groups, but this right here, we must protect them.
Oh
yeah.
God,
Please applaud us for our hard work. Thank you.
Right.
Doing the better future on Twitch.
Good job, Twitch.
And like even throughout the town hall, their main thing was like, the only solution that they really gave us, which isn't much of a solution, was continue reporting people and blocking them. Okay, thanks.
We do that already.
Thanks.
Like, I'm
OG.
sorry. I shouldn't have to quote unquote moderate abusive behavior. Like, I shouldn't have to do, like, I get that, yes, you moderate people who come in, and to some extent there is some level of abusive behavior that sometimes you just can't moderate with a bot. But like, there's certain language that is just there, right?
Yeah.
That you can just deal with. And the fact that you haven't figured out how to deal with that properly is it's a lot. And I just don't get it. Like, there are clear derogatory slurs that are used constantly by groups of people on all platforms that you can easily use to filter out names and things like that. And if you can figure out how to stop someone from putting ACAB in the title of their stream, you can figure out how to moderate.
Literally happened to me.
Yeah, you can figure out how to moderate people's language in a way that is, you know, not harmful. But like, these words are it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, somehow their bot is smart enough that it can stop me from having ACAB in my title, but it's not smart enough to stop people from creating usernames under George Floyd, for example. And I don't know how that's not a thing that someone either automatically or manually inserted into the database of not okay things to do for usernames. I don't know how many more people with that name account configuration I need to continue banning and reporting in order for them to do something about that.
Right.
Exactly.
But what
So
changes
glad
would
the
y'all
very
like? Oh, excuse.
vulnerable
Sorry.
cop community is protected from putting ACAB in your title. Just the very vulnerable cop community just really needs that protection.
Well, of course, Spin. Of course, they're the ones who are attacked constantly. Constantly.
You know what we're saying,
No, I was gonna ask what actual changes would y'all like to see getting implemented in the future?
I would like to see literal slurs get banned.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I would like for reporting someone to have consequences.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, okay, my thoughts on it is, like, their kind of excuse for not doing, like, a blanket ban on slurs is that, like, some people use them in a reclaimed sense. And some people do. But the thing is, like, I'm gonna speak on my experience as a queer person. Another queer person is not gonna go into a queer streamer's chat and say the F slur just in their first message.
Yeah.
Because they know that even if they use it in a reclaimed sense, that other person that they don't know might not appreciate that, might have trauma associated with that word.
Yeah.
Because they have that queer experience and they know. You know who is gonna come into a chat and say the F slur in their first message? A troll.
Yeah. Literally. Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. Exactly.
Straight up, like there's like no reason for that to be allowed, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to hear y'all's thoughts on this. Jam, what do you think?
I would agree. Like, there are certain ways in which, like, I know, like, I personally do not use, like, I personally do not use the N-word, but I know a lot of Black people do, and they use it as a reclaimed term, right? Like Spin was saying. But also, when it's used in a reclaimed way within the Black community, it's used very differently than it's used in any of the other, in the way that when it's used as a slur. But then on the other side of that, I think the thing is like there is a certain level of context that's easily able to be gotten from someone's messages, right? Like I mentioned before the podcast, like I literally, like the fact that I had to ban someone from coming into my chat and basically saying something like, I think it was the stream that I did where I was doing my hair, and then someone literally came in and was like, "Oh, monkey see, monkey do." I was like, that's literally, like, that's easy to say that, like, this person is coming in to say something derogatory to a Black person without using the N-word, which they know will immediately get banned, because that's banned in my chat. Like if you type, and they probably tried to type it and then it didn't show up because it's banned. So you can't type it by automod in my chat. But then you come in and say something like that, thinking that it's like, I know what you mean by that, so I'm immediately going to ban you.
Yeah.
It's just like those types of things. It's like, it's easy to tell. Like no one's going to come in and their first message be monkey blah 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 blah. And it's like, yes, the word monkey is not necessarily derogatory, but if I was playing a game with a monkey in it, someone using the term monkey is different. I'm literally sitting in a stream doing my hair, doing just chatting.
Yeah.
Like, computers are smart enough to figure out these things, and you have people who can look at it, but you haven't gone the route of that. In certain terms like incel and simp and those types of things came into existence and used by the community themselves to some extent, because you have the involuntary celibate community and they use that term, right? They called themselves incels, and simping is a thing that people use and has been used for, like, oh, like I simp for this person, and sometimes it gets used derogatorily but typically not. And you chose to do this, yet not protect the other people who have just been saying, hey, I'm not asking you to go above and beyond. I'm just asking you to take it seriously when I say that someone is trying to attack the community that I'm a part of and making me and my community feel unsafe. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you won't do that, you know, you haven't made a tag for trans people for them to feel comfortable. You treat the A in the LGBT thing, you know, in the LGBT tag as ally and saying that that's okay. Like, those are things you can avoid, and I just don't get it. So I'm hoping that they take time to think about what everyone else is doing. Like, if I have to ban people from my chat for those types of things, and having racist profile pictures, like someone had to be banned from my chat because they were being problematic, and then one of my mods clicked on their profile to try to not just ban them immediately, but then went to their profile and they had a racist profile picture. And then they banned them. And then they were messaging me saying, I'm not racist and blah, 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 blah. I said, my mod knows what they're doing. They went and they checked and they saw what you have. And they decided to remove you from my chat. And if they feel comfortable doing that, then that's what it is.
Yeah.
You know, and the fact that I have to depend on mods to do that and you can't protect the community, I don't know. It sits very poorly with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, especially like when there's technology in place that, because I do remember that situation that you're talking about, Jam, and they had like a literal slur like in their profile picture. There's technology that you can use to scan images for like symbolism associated with racist groups for slurs.
Yeah.
Like the technology is there. It's just not wanting to use it because you don't want to piss off the cishet white men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically.
I just don't get it. Like, they're not the majority of the world. You do realize that, right?
Yeah.
Like, there are so many other people in the world. They are part of the minority. Like protecting the way that they feel all the time when everyone else is saying, I just want you to just acknowledge that I am a human being and protect me from being abused. And you refuse to do it, but you can remove the word simp and say that, oh, well, that's gonna be the thing when I use the word simp to describe myself from time to time. Like,
right.
Yeah.
It honestly feels like they can and they for some reason won't. I mean, I just find it hard to believe that there's enough people there the way they just didn't think. Yeah, there's other words that we could, you know, ban and, you know, to protect these other, you know, communities. And I really just don't understand that. Because we shouldn't have to, you know, if we're streaming, having to look over to see if, you know, someone's saying, you know, something like that, or a moderator shouldn't do that. Because, you know, your focus is, you know, on, you know, entertaining, you know, your chat. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't mind banning people. I like banning.
Oh, same. Because I love it.
Because it's, I don't know why. I've been that way since Envision-free forums back in the 2000s. I will ban you for just coming in and acting a certain way when you know better. And now that I'm like 33, no, I'm 33 in 2 months. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. But I shouldn't have to do that. And the fact is that you have the power to make things better for, you know, these groups of people who do get abused on Twitch, and you used it on this group on these words. Like, why?
Yeah.
I really can't wrap my head around that. Yeah, definitely a priority.
Someone can use these terms, and people can use these terms derogatorily. Like, no one's saying that that's not the case. Like, it definitely can be used in a derogatory manner to refer to someone. But at the end of the day, these are the words you chose over many other words that people have been literally screaming from the rooftops about.
Yeah. It was just interesting that they were like, slurs of any kind are obviously not allowed, but let us clarify by adding these three very specific words that have to do with people's sexual habits. And I was like, who's going out of their way to click on someone, ban them, or not ban them, but like report them because they called you a virgin or because they called you an incel, or you know what I mean? It's just like, imagine trying to like make yourself the like oppressed in that way. You know what I mean? It's like that's just like straight folks, straight white folks just being like, oh my god, I need to feel oppressed in a way, so they must
next they're gonna ban people saying Karen.
Oh my god.
Not that.
Oh god, that's coming next. And the thing is, they're aware of this. Like about an hour or so ago, they put here on Twitch, we've had questions about the use of the N-word on Twitch. Use with a hard R is not allowed, period. Surprised they would say that. We also automatically block the word across Twitch, including in chat. So it's like, you're aware of that these things happen, but you didn't do anything, to help protect people with this.
Yeah. Like, we have to have all of these different combinations of it on like our block terms and with numbers, with symbols and all that shit. And and they still like people still do that. Yeah.
Not to mention like
the fact that I have to go in for that.
Yeah, the like how uncomfortable it is to type all of that in yourself.
Yeah.
As like being a person that's like targeted by some of these words.
Yeah.
It's just like I don't even want to type it.
I hate going through my blocked word list. I hate it. It's so rotted.
Yeah.
It's not fun. It just sucks that most of the things are like the solutions, quote unquote, are put on the streamers always. You know what I mean? Like they did say something about how they're gonna, or they're currently investing on like moderation, on their like moderation team or safety team, but that's not people who are going into your streams and actively moderating for you. These are people who will look at the reports that you sent, which means that people like they are waiting until someone does something terrible so that they can do something about it, when in reality I feel like Twitch is in a position where maybe they could have a dedicated team that could watch maybe maybe 15 minutes of a stream at a time, and maybe they could have some sort of system where it automatically cycles through like streams every 15 minutes for the space of an hour or something, and they can just like lurk in there and see what people are doing. And that's something that annoys me a little bit, is that sometimes you're watching a stream or something, and I know folks in staff, I'm a part of Rainbow Arcade, and we have a staff member in there, so it's not against anything like that. And of course Twitch staff members are also people who may want to just watch a live stream, but sometimes you're just watching someone and there's just a random staff member in there just chatting about random stuff, and it makes you think, like, sometimes in work hours, I'm not gonna say anything about anyone, but sometimes during work hours, and it makes you think like why don't we have even people like for everyone in staff, maybe like have a thing of like, hey, listen, maybe during at some point of your workday for an hour, can you just check in on certain spaces here and there, like maybe people with the LGBTQIA plus tag in there, or maybe people who are streaming this game, or maybe the just chatting category, which is always roaming with trolls. I just don't understand why it's always like, remember, we have all these mod tools. Okay, cool. Extra work for my mods that I'm not allowed to pay. Because of the terms of service, I'm not allowed to legally compensate my moderators. So you expect all of us to do this for free, when y'all are always talking about like more ad revenue options and more monetization options. And it's like, okay, all that money is going into a team whose work only happens after we have to report and we have to witness and we have to be attacked by people. Okay, work. Lovely. Thanks.
Love that. Like, I don't know. It's just it just feels like more could be done.
Yeah.
But it's not gonna be.
And to be fair, it's like when it comes to human resources and even when it comes to AI resources, it's always an ongoing issue. Like, of course, there's never going to be a place where Twitch is perfect or anywhere online is perfect, because people are people and they're going to find ways to go around. If they notice a certain pattern, they're like, okay, I can type that slur in that way. Next thing we know, we're going to have to figure out Morse code because the trolls are going to learn how to type in Morse code or some shit like that, and you're gonna have to be like, that actually means the F word in Morse code. You gotta go.
Yeah.
Just see a bunch of dots and dashes.
Yeah.
Dash and dashes. You gotta go.
Yeah. Oh my god. We all learn how to say incel in Morse code.
Oh my god.
And the thing is, I definitely agree that Twitch would not be able to take this, perfectly be able to handle this, but
yeah,
putting forth a lot of effort would show that at least you care enough about it.
Yeah.
And
but the thing,
effort would be.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, no one's asking them to be perfect.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not asking you to be. I'm asking you to acknowledge the issue and approach it and work on it. That's it. That's all I'm asking for.
Especially like with usernames as well. Like sometimes people get away with more stuff on their usernames than they do with like something that they can type in chat. Because sometimes in chat, like depending on people's automod settings, sometimes the automod doesn't even allow people to say gay. Just as like a thing, like we were talking about something or bitch or something like that, and the automod is like, oh no, you can't say that. So I think there needs to be something to be done about like usernames and like even profile creations in general. I don't know how, because I'm also not being paid for that, so figure it out, Twitch. But it is one of those things where like there are like video games that you play and you try to make like a username and they're like, oh, this sounds like you're like phonetically, even though you didn't type that out, but it sounds like something else, and you're like, oh, I can't type that. So even for usernames, I know like Nintendo is a good example of this. Like people, it's very hard for people to make terrible. Yeah, it's hard to get away with, like not to get away with, but it's hard. There's a lot of hurdles in order for people to be able to create a terrible username on there.
Yeah,
and that's all that we want. Like we don't want. Like we want if there's hate in chat and we can look at it and be like, okay, this person tried really hard to be hateful. This is not Twitch's fault. This person just managed to trick the system very easily. That's different. The effort. Yeah, exactly.
Wow, you went through a lot of hurdles to call me a slur.
I am slightly honored.
Job well done.
I was in someone's stream one time and someone came in and was like, blah, 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 you sound gay. And then the person was like, well, yeah, because I am. Have you seen the LGBTQIA plus tag?
Right.
Like, and then they were just like, well, that didn't go the way I expected. It's like, you thought you did something. Like,
they found me out. Oh my God.
Really think they're doing something when they call you gay. It's like, yeah.
It's like,
I mean,
did you not see the rainbow flag? Like,
did you not hear my Cali girl impression? Like, what's not clicking?
I said, yo, it's all there. Like,
was it the blonde wig? What? Like,
was it the Ariana Grande? Like, what was it that tipped you off?
Exactly.
Oh my God.
So honestly, I didn't know I was gay until you told me right now.
Right.
Thank you for opening my eyes. Truly.
I was trying to cover it up for this entire time, and you just exposed me for the homosexual that I am. I cannot even believe it.
Drag me over the coals like this. How dare you?
But yeah, we do have a lot more to talk about, and oh my God, we were gonna have so much juicy stuff to get into.
Have fun making fun of Twitch for a moment there.
Yeah, I think we're gonna go from making fun of Twitch to making fun of another big corporation.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and get into it. So, let's have a little chat about the fact that, and I know we keep saying we're not going to talk about Cyberpunk 2077 anymore, but they just keep flopping. So,
to say the least.
To say the least, CD Projekt Red's very, very bad week. A breakdown from PC Gamer, everybody. So, in a week that saw the biggest launch in PC gaming history, there was only one thing bigger: all the problems surrounding it.
This article is everything, by the way.
It's so good. Cyberpunk 2077 released a mere week ago, but it's already experienced a storm of complaints and controversy, and CD Projekt Red, through some dubious decisions and a bafflingly poor communication with players, has only made things worse. All right, so this is like a long list of things. So we're gonna break it down one by one. So I'm gonna start. So here's the first thing that's gone on this week, and there are many things. Cyberpunk 2077 has big time bugs. So first and foremost, even after several delays this year, which we've talked about multiple times in their crunch culture and everything, Cyberpunk 2077 is extremely buggy, and it's not like just goofy, janky, where players kind of clip through cars and kind of are naked, which was another big bug that kept happening in the game. There are multiple bugged quests that don't work, disappearing NPCs, even glitches that prevented people from completing the tutorial of the game, the thing that teaches you how to play.
The first minutes of the game.
You couldn't even get that to work.
Y'all. So we're gonna go through each of these points and kind of discuss a little bit, because for people maybe this is their first episode, we already talked about a lot of the problems leading up to the release of Cyberpunk 2077. So you can always check out those episodes. But we're gonna go through the launch week, because even though we have a lot of issues with the game and we're not playing it and all that stuff, we do want to talk about this because this is basically mostly what was going on in gaming news and press this week. So we're gonna talk about it. But what did y'all think about these?
So what did everyone think
these
about
bugs?
There was so much stuff that happened just this week that we don't even have to get into all the other stuff. We can just talk about this week.
Literally.
I'm just gonna say probably my favorite bug that I've seen was this one video I saw on Twitter where the tweet was like, I would love to progress in Cyberpunk, but I can't stop standing here and watching every car crash slowly into this one barricade while everyone yells at me about it.
I saw
and the
that.
video is just all the cars just like at 5 miles an hour just slowly crashing into this one barricade, and just everybody yelling at the player, and just another car.
I love it so much. I love it so much. It's so funny to me.
I laughed about that for like an hour.
Oh my god.
It is a mood, I will say. It is a mood.
It is a mood.
That is peak 2020, if I'm honest. Slowly crashing into a barricade over and over and over again.
Truly.
It is. Yeah, I saw like so many just like game-breaking bugs.
Yeah.
Crashes, like not being able to complete missions, not being able to complete the tutorial. What were some of the stuff? What were some of the stuff that y'all saw? Kobe, if you wanted to talk about it.
I've seen like a lot, like someone just walked to the car and it just exploded, and then another it disappeared, and I'm just like,
another 2020 mood, to be honest.
It's
so valid.
Like, it really feels like it wasn't tested, because like some of this stuff was like stuff you would see just by playing maybe just a few minutes. Now, I mean, some people have different opinions on like the bugs and whatnot, because I mean it is funny to watch at times, but not everybody wants to buy a game and have it be a buggy mess like this. So it just really feels like they didn't really like play test it before they sent it out. If people are finding bugs in the tutorial to where they can't even finish the game. So it's like, did y'all go through the tutorial, or did you probably didn't release it anyway though?
Yeah. I think we'll get into other points that this is basically, without spoiling what's to come in our discussion, this is not new to anyone working on the game, and even anyone involved in the decision of still releasing the game. I think it's hilarious to me how people were so gung-ho about, I really am gonna play this game despite what the people have to say, and despite all the sensitive people and the snowflakes, and doing all these mental gymnastics to justify themselves playing this game, and to still be hyped about the game no matter how many horrible things there are about it. To me, it's just like, I feel bad for people who are involved in this, because I don't know if we're going to touch on this in our discussion, but literally the next day the game came out, there was like a big meeting that got reported about, and like the developers were like, y'all promised that the game was going to be better in January, but we don't have any way of proving this. And they're like, well, just like constantly overworking them and making over-promising, and just saying all these things that will happen. And I just think I think this is unacceptable. I don't think I think people will find a way to still praise the game around this time next year, after all the patches and after the game is semi-playable, and they will already, I'm already seeing comparisons to No Man's Sky. People are already projecting that onto this game, like, oh, No Man's Sky was also not good at launch, so this is gonna have the same path. But it's like, No Man's Sky just wasn't a buggy mess, but No Man's Sky just wasn't what people were expecting it to be. It was a playable game. It just wasn't what people expected it to be.
Yeah, like No Man's Sky just lacked content, and they were like, yeah, this is what we have for now, and they overpromised and underdelivered, right? Yeah. But they didn't give you a game that didn't work. Like, you just didn't get to do all the things you wanted to do. And then the game, and that's the thing, like, eventually the game got better and people really enjoy it. Like, I've played No Man's Sky since they added in all the content, and it's an enjoyable experience, and it is more like what they originally said they were going to release. At least the game worked when they released it. It might not have been everything you wanted it to be, and I can be upset about that, but I can't be upset that they sold me a game that wasn't functional, right? Yeah. The fact that you sold me that you're selling people a game that does not work is the problem.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Which leads us to point number 2. Do you want to get into it, Koga?
Yeah. Okay. So Cyberpunk 2077. Go back up here. Oh my goodness, you silly mouse.
It is a pretty big doc this week.
Yeah. It had seizure triggers and no in-game seizure warning. Yep. So at launch, not only did Cyberpunk 2077 not have an in-game seizure warning, but the game actually triggered a seizure for Game Informer's Liana Rupert due to the brain dance sequences closing, mirroring real methods doctors use to deliberately trigger seizures. On the plus side, at least, CD Projekt Red worked with Rupert on this issue to rush out a hotfix. There is now a seizure warning when you boot up the game.
Yep.
And the sequences in question have been altered to be less dangerous for players who are prone to seizures. This isn't the 90s, so I didn't think we would have to be talking about, seizure issues and having to put these type of things in games anymore.
Right.
So I'm not really too sure like why that wasn't looked at before launch. I mean, it's good that it's there now, but it should have been there beforehand when, reviewers were playing the game, people had the game early, because, some people do, have seizures, and now you're you're triggering them with your game, and you didn't put like any type of warning for some unknown reason.
Yeah. It just,
Right.
to me, when I read about this, it just came across as like these like edgy people being like, you know what would be so funny if we like used actual actual methods that people use to trigger seizures. Wouldn't that be so cyberpunk? Wouldn't that be like so quirky and different and edgy? And I hate everything about that kind of culture. I know like there's probably people working at CD Projekt Red who probably didn't have any sort of intention on having this sort of outcome. But it also strikes me as hard to believe that there's a sequence specifically called Brain Dance and that somehow it's not, kind of deliberate. Like Koga said, this is also not the 90s. Like do y'all remember in the 90s there was like this Pokemon episode that got banned, and they also had a sequence that triggered seizures for people. And this was the 90s. People didn't know, not that people didn't know, but it wasn't, I guess, as commonly known as it is now. And like anytime you boot up a console, a lot of like games in general just give you warnings of like, hey, photosensitive people, be careful. You might experience headaches, migraines, like be careful. And I just thought it was so dangerous and irresponsible above everything. It's just completely not acceptable. And yeah, I echo everything that Koga said. This shouldn't even be something that we talk about in a game released in 2020.
Exactly. Like, I want to believe that it wasn't on purpose, but at the very least, it's definitely negligent because, like, there are ways to look into these things. Like, we have the information that, okay, this particular kind of sequence will cause a seizure in someone with photosensitive epilepsy. And I really just want to kind of touch on the response to this Game Informer article that Liana Rupert did, because basically, like, yeah, like fans of the game, like, basically spammed her with videos that are like meant to trigger seizures because they were mad about her being critical of a game,
doing her job. Imagine that.
Yeah, and like
that is trash.
And that's just completely unacceptable. And that was probably the worst end of the responses to this. The other end of the negative responses to this was, oh, well, if you have photosensitive epilepsy, don't play games. Every game has a seizure warning. And it's like, do you realize what you're saying there? Like,
just don't play video games.
Just don't play games.
But like having a photo, but just because they have a seizure warning, that's because they thought about the fact that a person might be photosensitive, and they said, hey, this game has content that, like, the best way to get this content across was by doing it this way, so we're gonna let you know that this exists in the game. Like, and no one's asking you to say that, like, sometimes there are just certain ways that you're gonna have to do things. It's like you play a game, and if you're having something and it's gonna be flashing, sometimes things flash in the real world, and that's the way it is.
Yeah.
But you could either add in a mode that turns off that for people who are photosensitive, or warn people so that they know, oh, this is something I need to be concerned about, and if I start to see it, I can avert my eyes or look away or do something about it.
Yeah.
Other than just saying don't play games. Like, how childish is that? It's just like, oh, you don't like it? Leave.
Right.
Like,
when it's like, literally, it's not a question of like if you like it or not. It's like, this game literally causes seizures.
Yeah.
It causes harm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, and it just does not have to, is the thing. Like, you could very easily not give people seizures and still give them a good experience.
Also, indie titles have photosensitive modes activated in there.
Exactly.
Like, I was literally playing Celeste on stream the other week. Spoilers to what we're playing, but but I started playing Celeste, and I always go through the settings, especially when you're on PC. You always go through the settings to check everything. And one of the settings was photosensitive mode, and I was like, well, I'm not sure what this is gonna do, but I'm gonna turn it on just in case. And because it might not affect me, but maybe more people are able to watch the stream safely. Because I also think this is a conversation about content warnings and how they're important, not just for seizures, but also for gore, for specific themes. Because even in the game, like, I was listening to like other podcasts, and apparently, like, I guess this is not really a spoiler because it's a part of the beginning sequence of the game, but literally a part of the beginning of the game is like you take out this naked woman from a bathtub, and she's fully naked. The camera focuses on her boobs, and it's implied that it was some sort of, like, you know, sexual violence that took place, or at least, of course, like, abuse to a certain extent. It's implied, at least, right? So it's like, how are you gonna send that game to female gaming journalists and also not have those warnings, and maybe even not let them talk about that because of embargoes and because of all that? So I think we should normalize just content warnings in general, because even in the perspective of a streamer, like, sometimes, you know, I was watching a summit that Rainbow Arcade did in collaboration with Queer Black Excellence, and people were talking about how they stream certain games, and they weren't expecting there to be themes of suicide in there, or like specific depictions of like abuse or harassment or just violence in general, right? So I think it should be, because I think people sometimes get scared of like doing a content warning because they're like, oh, it's gonna spoil the story or it's gonna spoil the game. But like, I think you can do it in a way that's like spoiler sensitive, at least, because Tell Me Why actually was a good example of this. They had a disclaimer on their website with content warnings of like, hey, the main character is trans, and yes, he is going to be misgendered, but it is portrayed in a way in which like he's empowered by the experience. Like, they go in not necessarily into detail of what happens, but they describe the feelings and the content surrounding that situation. So I think you can easily do content warnings without just fully being like, oh, there is going to be this specific part of the game that does this exact thing, and this is what you should do about it. Like, no, just give a fucking epilepsy warning and just give us a photosensitive mode, and there's that. And also, Lotus in chat said, companies slapping seizure warnings on everything that moves to avoid legal issues, but not including disability settings. Yeah, that's also a huge issue. Like, you can have a content warning, or you can be like, oh, you know, this might happen, but then if you don't have a setting to turn it off, then do you really care about those issues, or are you just doing that so you don't get into legal trouble, right?
Yeah,
right.
True.
Yeah, do y'all have any other thoughts on this specific part before we move on to our third point?
I just had like one thing super quick.
Yeah?
The people who get mad about like, oh, people are just too sensitive, you don't need to put content warnings on everything. There literally also is like content warnings on like everything. You watch a movie, all the movies are rated. Like it'll be like rated R for this, and this.
Yeah.
You go to a store, you look at like you like pick up a pack of bread, it has an allergen warning. Like
yeah.
Are you just like, oh, you just like throw the bread on the ground, you're just like, how dare they have a warning? People with food allergies are just too sensitive these days. Like,
yeah.
There's already content warnings on so many other things, so why not games?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, TV shows are the same. Like, every TV show you watch, literally at the beginning, it's like, this is rated R for this, or PG-13 for that. Like, there is literally, we have decided for the most part as a society that content warnings are helpful.
Yeah. Netflix these days also has like a good content warning of like depiction of this is gonna happen, or certain language, or because I also think that like saying that something, because like for example the little warnings that the games come, like especially like in the boxes and everything, like sometimes it says like, you know, for violence, but violence can have many shapes, and just because you expect violence in a video game doesn't mean that you're necessarily expecting for certain things. Like I remember even like I loved my Resident Evil 2 experience, but I remember being like, this is the level of gore and detail in which I was not expecting. Seeing like organs just flying out of this person's body, and I was like, this is, I mean, made for a funny reaction, but I think for me maybe it was just like ew, gross, but for other people it could have been terrible, you know what I mean, and they could have like ruined their day. So I also think that just because there's a warning for violence doesn't mean that like people could also just be like more specific about it. I don't think it would ruin the experience for anyone. But yeah, our third, oh, go ahead.
I was done.
Oh. You were just agreeing with me, and I'm like, yes.
I was just agreeing.
Yeah. Our third of more points about what went wrong in this Cyberpunk 2077 launch week was that it had major problems on consoles. So on PS4 and Xbox One, Cyberpunk 2077 is not doing well at all. In some cases, it's been nearly unplayable with scandalously low resolutions, long pauses before textures will load in, and the world nearly empty of NPCs, just to name a few. It's also to note that I think one patch has come out that resolved a little bit of these issues, but according to CD Projekt Red's statement on Twitter, they're working on 2 bigger patches for January and February to address more of these issues. So if you're considering playing it on PS4 and Xbox One, well,
don't.
Maybe wait till February.
Don't do it.
Just don't do it. If you're going to play it on an Xbox One, you better have an Xbox One X.
Or the PS5, yeah.
It's like Xbox One X or the Xbox Series X, because anything Xbox One S or
Series
original, S. Well, I think it will run on the Series S, but it's the I think the Series S is fine, fine.
Right.
But I think the issue is all of the Xbox One line of consoles, the original Xbox One, the Xbox One S, and One X, which were their upgraded versions of the original Xbox One. Even though, I think at best you can get it on because the Xbox One S is just an original Xbox One and a smaller console, so that's not going to run it. The Xbox One X probably, because it was the equivalent to the PlayStation 4 Pro, but not even then. I don't think it'll do well. Just don't.
This is particularly interesting to me because the game was developed at a time where PS5 and Xbox Series X and S were not a thing. So
it didn't exist yet.
So they were meant to work on anything current gen, technically. So to me, that's just particularly interesting that they just didn't even, people who are able to play this are people with really, really, really good PCs, like the latest stuff kind of PCs. Or if you have a PS5 or Series X/S and you're playing it with backwards compatibility, because the game is not even officially out for those platforms yet. People are just playing on there because it doesn't work properly on the consoles it's supposed to be out and working for, which is also a huge issue because that's the appeal of console gaming, is that the game is going to run decently, that there are not going to be any big issues or any remarkable issues. So yeah, do y'all think this is an issue that has to do with consoles kind of hold back like gaming in general? Do you think they shouldn't have released it on console yet? What do you think? What are your thoughts? We kind of were talking about this a little bit before we went live, but what are your thoughts on this console situation?
I don't know. I feel like, and we're gonna go into it a bit later, but I feel like it wasn't a surprise to them that they were gonna be releasing on PS4 and Xbox One. Like, they knew.
Yeah.
They knew. And they still released the game in an unplayable condition anyway. And those were just my thoughts about it. I know Koga has some more thoughts, so if you want to get into that.
Sure. If they were going to release it like this, I don't feel that it should have put it on the current gen consoles. I mean, it runs a little bit better on the Pro and the One X, but not that much. But most of the player base of gamers are still on the base PlayStation 4, and you put it on there, it doesn't work that well. And so you angered more of the player base, which you were already had people upset to begin with. So now you made the other people who weren't upset, you made a lot of them upset too now, which doesn't help you in the long run. They did know, I mean, they were going to put it on base console, so I'm not sure why they wouldn't try to, optimize it a bit more. I mean, I understand that it was built on PC for PC to take advantage of the hardware that's not even available yet, because if you try to set things to max, you need a really good PC to do all that. But it's like, even with that, you knew it was going to come to, consoles. And then I know they got the dev kit in 2017 for the PlayStation 5 version, at least for that. And it's been in development for a while. Like, they teased it in 2013. The thing is that some people, and I know even some outlets may not know this, it didn't actually start development in 2013. They didn't start developing it until after they were completely done with The Witcher 3, and they finished that in 2015 and then started it in 2016. So a year later, you got the dev kit to start working on that. And I don't know, it just feels like you probably just shouldn't either have put it on the ones, but it's like, I guess they wanted to make the money anyway.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't run very well. Like I've seen it drop to like 15 frames per second. The base Xbox One version can actually drop below 720p, so we're not even in HD anymore sometimes. Yeah. It's like, I know a lot of people on consoles say they don't care about resolution and frame rate. I call on that sometimes. But this is one of those things where it's like, people do, and if it's not running well, they're not having a good time. And you charge full price for this, full $60, and it's not working well.
Exactly.
On console. It works on almost everything else. Even Stadia, but most of your player base is on PlayStation 4, and it's not working. Right? Like, that's awful.
Yeah. I don't get it. I'm in agreement there, Koga. I just kind of, the way they have it set up just doesn't make any sense, because this game I think even when they like fully announced that they were really working on it, they touted that they were like, yes, this is going to be a next gen game, but it's going to run on the current gen of console. Like, that was their statement. Well, and run, but their big thing, because they were asked, they were like, okay, you're building this very ambitious game where you're saying it's not going to have loading screens and you're just going to be able to seamlessly go throughout the world. How are you going to do that on older consoles, right? And they said, on older consoles, there will be loading that has to happen. Things will take a little bit longer to happen. And the thing is, those were things that I think people expected, but they were not expecting you to release a non-functional game where you still haven't even, like you mentioned, they got the dev kit to work on this for the PS5, and they haven't released the PS5 version of the game. They haven't released the Xbox Series XS version of the game. It's still the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 version of these games being run on the newer console. So like, what are you going to add in that's going to make it so that it can function properly on these newer consoles? Because if they're playing backwards compatible and these consoles are way better and they still have problems, what are you expecting people to do? And it's just, and I don't think it's a situation of, like Ruby mentioned, holding the other back. I think, I think the thing that's benefited the console world in games coming out and then being developed for console first a lot of the times now is that they get developed for console, and then PC typically can handle most of the things, that it can handle all of the things that a console is going to be able to do. But when you develop this game that you knew was going to be mainly played on consoles, but you developed it solely to run on the most up-to-date version of PC hardware, you didn't think about consumers at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And even go ahead.
I mean, I do want to say that I can understand wanting to build it on PC like that in a way, because it lets them make what they want to make without as much limitations, to where if it was on consoles first, it's like, it's okay, we got to build it on this, and then PC gets theirs, and then it's not as like, it doesn't have, I guess it's, push the, graphics or whatnot as far, which is why this generation you hear a lot of PC gamers feel that console gaming is holding PC back, because it's built for consoles and not for PC at all. And done in this way, I actually do like that. But if you're going to put it on consoles, you have to make sure that it runs, that it does. I mean, regardless. Yeah. So it's like, you're going to build it on PC first, you're going to have to find a way to also make sure it's running on consoles if you're going to release it, or just don't.
Yeah.
Or just don't. Just release it as a PC game.
And as much as I don't know anything about gaming development, because I'm not a developer, turns out, surprise. No, but I do listen to podcasts. I know, Spin, shocking behavior. How dare I? But I've listened to gaming directors and such talk about developing games and working with their teams. A lot of them indies, because they're usually more transparent and more, they don't care about like being like super, they don't care about being like super protective over their, process and all that shit. Like, they just want to tell people about their game. And one of the challenges that people talk about is how actually PCs actually hold back gaming in a way, because when you develop a game for PC, you have to take into consideration that PCs have many different specs. So the idea is like, you have to develop for PCs that are older than current gen consoles by a lot, and for PCs that are way superior than current consoles at the moment. So it's like a very like wide range, like even wider than like releasing stuff for PS4, because guess what? Some computers are older than that, and they still are expecting in some way to be able to run games. Of course, each developer is like, hey, here are the minimum requirements. I'm so sorry if you don't have this. But they usually have to be such old specs for it to be acceptable for them to be like, sorry, you just, this is from like 2010. If you can't run it, I'm so sorry. Like, yeah. So yeah, it's kind of a misconception, and developers don't necessarily say that PC holds back anything or whatever. I was just using my own words. It's just like PC development is way broader than what you would think. So because they don't just think about the latest hardware, because even nowadays the latest hardware is just as hard to get as like a new console, because everything is like sold out. I saw like the latest NVIDIA graphics card. Some people were like, their orders are scheduled for 2022 because of like how delayed and how sold out and how scarce everything is. So trust me, developers are not working on games only to be aimed at the latest hardware. Like that would be very ignorant of them. So this coming from a AAA company who should know better, I'm like, I don't even feel bad. I'm so sorry. Like, I feel bad for the developers working like 6 days a week for the last however months, but I don't feel bad for like the higher
I don't
ups.
feel bad for the publisher.
Yeah, absolutely. Which we
itself.
could get into the issues with the company.
Yeah, because they really should have known better.
And they knew, turns out.
It turns out they did. So the next point in this article is their CEO admits many of the game's issues were ignored. Things got so dire so fast that CD Projekt Red held an emergency call with investors about the issues surrounding Cyberpunk 2077's launch, admitting there wasn't enough focus on the game's problems in the mad push just to get it released. We understand the scale and complexity of the issues. We ignored the signals about the need for additional time to refine the game on the base last-gen consoles. It was the wrong approach and against our business philosophy, said joint CEO Adam Kaczynski. Kaczynski also said that most of the footage pre-launch shown was from PC, which further hid the issues on consoles from customers prior to release. So that's a big one.
And that's just an excerpt, by the way. Like, there was like a whole meeting that was reported on by Bloomberg, and we are not going to get into the entirety of it, but trust me, the developers who were very hard working on this, they were the ones like also asking the questions and being like, why?
What happened?
Can we get more time?
Yeah.
Well, be like, can we get more time to work on this? Like,
Yeah.
So basically what this tells us is they knew that the game was unplayable.
Yep.
And they hid it from their customers in any way that they could, and were just like focusing on advertising,
Yep.
hiding footage for last gen consoles, and in like a desperate push just to get it released when it was not ready.
Yep.
And that's just so incredibly dishonest in a way that I know we're living in late stage capitalism. I shouldn't necessarily expect better from corporations, but like even me being like as like cynical about that as I am, like, is still just completely flabbergasting to me.
It's especially ironic because that's kind of the point of Cyberpunk 2077. Like, capitalism is bad. Big corporations are bad. And they're the ones perpetuating these things.
We're going to show you in real life.
The irony of them like trying to make a game that was like a critique of corporations and then doing this themselves is just just like cosmic level irony
right
in this situation.
And it's also like, I have a huge issue with, and if people are watching the video version, you saw it, the second spin was reading the quote, saying that it's against their business philosophy and then doing it anyway was like, if it was against your business philosophy, like, you wouldn't have done it, sweetie. Like, it just pisses me off so much. Like, oh, it's against everything that we stand for, but you did it.
You did it anyway.
But you did it.
I mean, maybe it used to, but not right now. Like, they used to be very consumer friendly, like, you know, with GOG and everything like that. So it's like you went from being some people was like, okay, they're not going to be that bad, and you just somehow became one of the worst real quick. I have never seen like a fall from grace in the gaming community like that from like a publisher this fast. It takes years for these kind of things to happen. This happened like in a week.
In a week. Yeah.
And we're not done yet.
We're not even done. We're not even done.
And the thing is, it's like it's bad because it shows that you can't be trusted because you knew about this, and like the whole review process was a mess. As stated before, like they were showing the PC version, and that actually makes a bit more sense to me because like they weren't showing like there was like no ray tracing being shown. It was just without it off, which the console versions don't have currently. So it's like, if you're not giving people, you know, a way to look at the current version, something sounds wrong. And I felt that like a few days before the game came out, because if there is a product that you strongly feel is going to be good and worth buying, you're going to show that off.
Yeah.
I mean, the PC
in every
version
form
may be,
possible.
Right. The PC version may be, because I mean, on Steam they apparently mostly love it, but on PS4, you didn't show that, and they didn't know it was going to be that bad until they spent $60 on the game,
Yep.
or $250 if they got the collector's edition. Put it in, and it doesn't work, and then all of a sudden it's like you all knew about it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty well. That's no surprise that you knew. That you just purposely tried to like hide it and cover it up so bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and to
I think
sorry, I just wanted to add a little thing as well, because on the theme of reviews, they also I've heard podcastings and situations like that. So for media outlets, they didn't allow them to, for their video reviews, they didn't allow them to use footage that they captured themselves. They only allowed them to use footage provided by CD Projekt Red, which is huge red flag. And for people, I listen to this specific podcast, and they're not PC gamers per se. Like they usually only get copies for console versions, and they only got them like the day of, basically. Like leading up to the release, they were like, "Hey, we kind of need some time to review the game and to have an opinion for our show. Like, are y'all gonna what's going on?" And the person was like, "Well, so for them, even before they got their hands on the game, that was a huge red flag, because they were like, uh-oh, this is not going to be good." Like, if they believed in this, they would have sent us the copy like a week in advance, and we would be raving about it. And so, yeah, it's bad. Like, really, really bad.
Yeah. Along with that, like, they clearly knew that this was going to be an issue, right? Because they, like, with this, but then also they delayed it because they said there are issues with the old console version of the game. Like, that is literally why it got delayed. Like,
and it's so silly to me thinking about the last delay that they did, because they only delayed it by like a couple weeks, and it's like, just release it next year, diva. Like,
we'll release the PC version. Like, how many companies have said we'll release the console version of this game or the PC version of this game, and then the other version will come 6 months from now?
All the time.
And
all
like
the time.
Most
Literally,
pre-orders were PC pre-orders. Like, I don't know how the numbers exactly, but there's a report out there. There's so many reports about this cursed game, but there's a report out there that like the majority of the pre-orders were on PC anyway. So like, just deliver to that audience and just be like, hey, in a month or two, consoles are coming. No, just release the whole thing and then throw it all away to the fucking garbage. Which just leads us to point number 5.
Oh yes, point number 5. Okay. So there was the game is bad. We all know that now. They knew it before they released it. And they basically had a terrible refund policy and messaging for console players, right? So most people on Steam are not asking for refunds, but people on console are.
Yeah.
And here from PC Gamer, again, they say players on console who were unsatisfied with their purchase of Cyberpunk 2077 were told by CD Projekt Red that they should request the refund. For digital copies purchased on PS4 and Xbox, CD Projekt Red that players should seek a refund through Sony or Microsoft.
Oh boy.
Right. So while Microsoft will refund a game within 2 weeks of purchase, getting a refund on PS4 wasn't quite so easy. While some players reported they were able to get the game refunded through Sony, many others said that Sony was not offering refunds for players who had started playing the game. Instead, Sony told players that CD Projekt Red was fixing the game, and if they had complaints, they should contact CD Projekt Red directly. Then the PS4 refund situation was abruptly resolved. Great news for players who wanted their money back, but more bad news for CD Projekt Red. And this makes sense. Yeah, so Microsoft's policy on digital downloads has been pretty good for a while, where they give you a good chunk of time to return games. Even I think if you had played them, but I know that Sony has always had this issue of like, oh, if you started playing a game, we don't refund it. Which I think is weird, because then you don't know if you like the game.
Right.
or if it's working properly. But I like that Sony basically said, okay, well, now we see that there's an issue. But I think the problem probably comes from CD Projekt Red was like, well, we're going to fix it. It's fine. The fix is coming. The fix is coming. And Sony was probably like, oh, well, they're going to get fixed soon. And then they realize, oh, no, this is deeper than we thought. And there's nothing to fix this issue right now other than a patch a month from now to fix the game.
One of the 2 patches that they're releasing.
2 patches.
The first half of the of the fix.
The first half of the fix for the fix that was done 2 weeks before the game was supposed to come out.
It's so messy.
So, getting into it, what do y'all think about this whole terrible policy around, because even now Microsoft is basically like, yeah, we're refunding, period. If you're not happy with it, we'll refund it to you. And granted, it's only been a week, so it falls under Xbox's policy, but what do y'all think about this bad messaging in terms of refunds on console?
I have always had it. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say that, like, this whole situation makes me think of, like, if, like, when you're a kid and you go to the Toys R Us and you want a toy, and then you ask your mom for the toy, and she's like, ask your dad, and then you ask your dad for the toy, and you're like, ask your mom, and then you ask your mom again.
You just basically run in circles.
It's just a loop, because, like, it's like CD Projekt Red is just like, talk to Sony and Microsoft, and Sony and Microsoft are like, talk to CD Projekt Red. It's like...
Yeah, because it's like PlayStation and Microsoft are not going to pay out of their pockets to give you their refund.
Right.
Like, that should be on you. Like, I don't understand. And I did separate it into 2 different points, but Sony did completely pull Cyberpunk from the PlayStation Store temporarily. I think there's been an update to the situation. They said they're working with CD Projekt Red to bring it back as soon as possible. But yeah, Sony just released a statement the other day, and they just they are offering a full refund for everyone who's purchased it, and they will remove the game is off of the store. If you already purchased it and you didn't ask for a refund, you can obviously re-download it as many times as you want. That's how some people were like, what? It's outside the store. I can't access my copy. No, you can. You can. That's not how online libraries work. But if people want to get a new one, they can't. And Microsoft did now if you go into the Microsoft store, apparently there's a little warning now under Cyberpunk that says like there's performance issues with it. So yeah, Microsoft is not taking it down for now. But
it might come down, but right now it's still up.
It's messy. It's so messy. It's like, well, if you don't like it, just ask for a refund. Like, okay. It's so silly to me.
This is why I felt for years that refund policy on consoles for digital content really needs to be more of a thing.
Yeah.
Because we've had to deal with this on PC back with Batman Arkham Knight. It was so bad that it got pulled off the store, and then it gave birth to Steam's refund policy. Like, that's how it started, because it was a mess and didn't work. And that should be a thing, on consoles as well, because it don't work, or maybe they just don't like it. And on Steam, yes, as long as you refund it within like 2 hours of play or 2 weeks, it doesn't matter what reason. If you don't like it, no questions asked. Okay, they'll ask why, but it doesn't really matter. But you can just refund it.
They will ask a question.
Yeah, and I feel that should be more of a thing, especially since some games don't get demos to give people an idea of how the game works, because they may not be what it is they thought. So this needs to be more of a thing on consoles, and the thing is, this situation right here should make it a thing from here on out. Like, Sony needs to have that same policy to where I'm not saying it has to be like a long amount of time, but at least something for people to where it's not like this.
Yeah, because even Steam, they have a thing like where in their rules they say that you should like in order to get a refund you can only play for a certain amount, but you can always like legitimately like if you asking them you can always be like, hey, I tried it for different hours because I was trying different settings but it didn't work, or I really didn't like it, and they can still like they
They'll
are
still
very likely
refund
to
you.
give you a
Yeah.
refund because well they won't charge, they won't put the money on your account, but they will give you money on Steam so you can buy other games. So it stays within their ecosystem anyway. So
Well, they give you a refund on your card now.
oh, they do. Oh, okay. When
Yeah,
it was
I've done it.
Oh, okay.
You get it after like a few. It's like a few days because you know how it is. Like they'll take it real
Yeah.
fast, but to give it back, like we need a few days because we need to hold on to it just a little bit, and then they'll send it. So they do cash. It's just that you have to buy it off the store.
Okay, there
so like
you
if
go.
you get like so like if you get like a key off of Green Man Gaming or something, you're out of luck on that one. But if you buy directly off of their store, and if you use a credit card or PayPal or something like that, you can get your money back, or you can use it as credit if you would like. But at least it's there.
Yeah.
I mean, it sucked that it took like something like terrible happening like that for it to be a thing. But at least it is, and it needs to be something across the board if you're going to do digital content, because that's just how it is. Sometimes games now come out and it may not work, and now this is an issue on console to where a game may not work, where you would think that wouldn't be the place that they would have to worry about that.
And I think we should even add Nintendo to this mix, because Nintendo's refund policy is a joke. It doesn't exist. You can't get a refund. And I think it's very irresponsible to do that, because especially like for any consoles, you may not get the experience that you expect, especially if you see a trailer that got recorded from a PC. You don't know how how it's gonna go on console. It might not, even if the game works, right?
Yeah.
They should have more of a lenient thing of like, okay, I played for a few hours and I don't like it. Maybe it should be in relation to how long the game is. Like if the game is 1 hour long and you played for an hour and you're like, I want a refund. No. But like if the game is supposed to be like 100 hours and you played like 5 and you're like, ooh, I didn't like the themes that the game, like I wasn't expecting there to be like, I don't know, violence, or I didn't expect to hear slurs in game or something along those lines. Like they should allow for you to be like, hey, I know I played for 5 hours, but this game is like 100 hours long, and this exact event that makes me so that I want to play this game anymore only happened deeper into the game. So I think it should be more of a gray scale rather than like, oh, you played this game for this amount of time, so you can't get a refund. Sorry. Like it should be more of a real customer service situation. But
and like I definitely understand that kind of policy of like, because they don't want people to just play the game all the way through and then get a refund for it, because I've worked retail. I've worked returns desks. I know people. I know people are going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Even do that all the time.
You would be surprised, even in the food industry, they do that. They will like eat basically the entire meal and then leave a little corner and be like, it was raw. And then
it was disgusting.
And then the server's like, but you ate it all. And they're like, it wasn't up to my standards. I want a refund. I want a new one.
I had to taste all of it to make sure that it was not, that it wasn't up to my standard.
Right.
One time I had somebody at my old job try to return shoes that he'd been using for 2 years.
That
he'd been wearing and using for 2 years.
No.
The sole wore out after the first wear.
Exactly. And it's like, you made this purchase 2 years ago. No.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
I get having a policy like that in place, but I do think that there needs to be like a little bit more like situational basis on some things. Those are my thoughts.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I had a lady try to return a shirt one time when I worked in a store, and just was like, oh yeah, I washed it, and which I understand, sometimes you wash something and then it just like falls apart and you're like, okay, this is terribly made, and I can get that. But she was like, oh, this thing is starting to like peel up. I said, yeah, because you washed that shirt a delicate shirt with towels because you're an idiot. Like, I can tell you washed it with towels. I was like, what are you doing? I was like, okay, since I'm not allowed to argue with you about this, I guess I'll return it. But like, this makes no sense to me. I can tell what you did. And I'm 15, or I'm 16 working in JCPenney.
Oh.
I know the clothes are cheap. They're bad, but they're not that bad.
Right. So yeah, following Sony pulling Cyberpunk 2077 from the store, this is actually a little situation that I took from Markets Insider. Cyberpunk 2077 publisher stock plummeted 22% after Sony pulled the game from its store and started offering refunds. Which you may be thinking, what does that mean, Ruby? That is equivalent to just hold on to your butts, $1.8 billion
Pledged,
of CD Projekt Red's market capitalization. So they went from being a company that made, by the way, all of the development money, all the marketing money that they spent, they made it all within release date. Like they made all of that money release date with pre-orders and everything. Like, they were good. They were like, I made the money. Everybody purchased the game. We are good. And within a week, the tables turned in such a way that
1 week.
I just have to laugh. I'm not even sorry. Like, I just have to laugh.
Yeah, it's just like, I know, like, I should feel bad, but I just don't. I just can't be bothered to feel bad. Just like, so sad that you lost $1.8 billion. Oh.
I mean, they did it to him. They did it to themselves. There's no reason to feel bad. Like, it's not like it was like an accident or a mistake. It was like, no, they purposely did this, and now they got to face the consequences.
And they tried getting away with it. Right. Which was the worst part. Like, they knew they were in trouble, and they couldn't meet the expectations and the deadlines that they put upon themselves. And I think there was even like another thing from that same meeting that Bloomberg reported on, that nobody placed those deadlines on them. It wasn't Microsoft, it wasn't Sony. They did that to themselves fully.
Yeah.
So
they said there was no pressure for them to release it right now. So I'm not sure. I cannot wait for. We don't know yet. I cannot wait for Mac McMuscle's episode of what happened, because I want to know.
It was money. It was 100%. We want to make money.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's money, but
we want to get the holiday season rush.
Launch. Yeah.
Right. Why?
Yeah.
Nobody has the console, so anyway, like.
Literally, it's not cute. Getting a new console is a nightmare. It's no. If any of you listening and watching this have watched or listened to our previous episodes about Cyberpunk and all the issues that we have with it that are rooted within transphobia, racial stereotyping, the list goes on, that explains our reactions of like, well, it's what she deserves. With that being said, if you go on social media and you spot someone who worked in development, do not harassment. Do not harassment. That's what I said with all my heart and soul. Don't harass them. Don't, say something nice to them, because if they're a developer, if they are someone who worked 6 days a week just to get this fucking game out, and hopefully, just they weren't even gonna pay them bonuses. Like, they changed their policy because all the employees were like, hey, we worked a lot to get this game out, and we sold millions of copies. We deserve the fucking bonus, even though we didn't get a certain score, which is rotted, by the way. I hope it's not a normal thing, and I think it is a normal thing in the gaming industry of like, hey, if our game gets a 10, everybody gets a certain amount of bonus for their hard work. No, like, you should just pay people for their hard work, and if the game made a lot of money, then give them an extra bonus. That just seems like disgusting. But yeah. Any other reactions on this entire CD Projekt Red week of doom?
She is the girl we knew she was. Like, we said it. We said it was going to be a flop, and she flopping, Your Honor.
Okay, yeah.
She flopping.
Yes, we did predict this. We said this is either going to be...
Not like this.
No.
Like
no, we literally said this is either going to be like a huge success or a huge flop. We didn't know the extent.
I think it would flop at this scale.
We didn't think it'd be broken.
Right.
I thought it would just be a game that just the gameplay was lackluster or just more of the same.
Which also
and it wasn't anything innovative. Which it is, truly. It is. It's more of the same.
From all reports that I've heard, it is not anything like that special.
But like, to release this game that you have hyped with your teaser in 2013 to all of your gameplay about the decisions you get to make and how important it is and blah, 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 to a game where you sometimes can't even get out of the tutorial.
I don't know.
I wasn't expecting this.
Me neither. I thought it was going to be a little bit of a shit show. I wasn't expecting for an entire week's worth of articles about it.
Yeah. I expected frame rate drops on older some of the things that are happening. I was like, oh yeah, there'll be frame rate drops, right?
Yeah.
It might not play as smoothly. The resolution might not be as good.
Maybe a couple bugs here and there.
Yeah, but not like a non-playable game. From the company that prided itself on releasing games that just work.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't.
It sure does not.
I don't know. But I feel sorry for the people who had to, work on the game. I'm pretty sure there were people who had, high hopes and wanted it to be good. I'm honestly curious on Mike Pondsmith and how he feels about it. Because he's actually the creator of Cyberpunk and that universe, and he worked with them on this game, as consultant and building, the world in it. But I don't know about close to where development to where it was like this.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I feel bad for the developers and the time they've put into this, and crunch culture pushing them to complete a game that wasn't ready, even though they told the publisher it wasn't ready.
Yeah. And they're actively still working on it, by the way, because the patches are not going to work on themselves. So these poor developers, just show them some love if you can. Don't go out of your way to harassment again. To harass them. Don't
Stop harassing people on review scores, please.
Also that.
I don't know. It's like people say review scores don't matter until it's something they really don't like or something they really do. I'm like, either it does or it doesn't. But apparently it does if people want to just start harassing people because they gave it a lower score. I mean, okay, they gave it a lower score. It's their opinion. So what?
Right. And even reporting on the issues, right? The poor reporter who reported on having a fucking seizure while playing the game.
Exactly.
She got hounded on socials for just doing her job.
And sent videos to induce seizures in. How horrible of a human being do you have to be?
Yeah.
To the point where you think that is an acceptable response to somebody raising a valid criticism on a game.
Yeah.
And that's way too much. That's way too much of a problem. Is that people will criticize like a piece of media and people take it personally, like you attack them. Like, I mean, I can get it if they're like being maybe disrespectful about it, depending on the situation. But I mean, it's an opinion, and they can have that. There's, they either bought their own copy or they were given it. So if they feel a certain way, it's okay for them to say, "I don't like this for this reason," et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel different, I mean, that's fine. But it's not to the point where you have to like attack people.
No, not at all. Yeah. Exactly. People just wanna like get their, especially with reviews and people who pre-order games. Which, by the way, why? Like, especially if it's a digital version, why are you pre-ordering, Diva? But anyway, regardless,
I do kind of want to talk about that. Please stop pre-ordering digital games.
Yeah.
Back in the day, we pre-ordered because there may not be a copy for the most part. Now, if it comes like with something exclusive that's cool or a discount, sure, I'll give you that. But if it's like the exact same thing, why are you paying in advance for something that may not work? You really don't want to do that on PlayStation now. I mean, because you see how that worked. It's just wait a minute.
Yeah.
You don't need to pre-order something because it's digital. It's not going to sell out. I mean, it's on a server somewhere. You just download it. Or they're going to run out of gigabytes?
Teraflops?
Like, it's just
she teraflops, Your Honor.
She really did teraflop in the worst possible way.
I'll see myself out. Okay, bye.
But yeah, people want to look at reviews and they want to get reassured of like, oh, I pre-ordered this game, so I need to see positive reviews to reassure that I'm a good person, that I made a responsible choice, and that all of these things. And it's like, no, people are going to have opinions.
Yeah, like if you're playing it and you're enjoying it, if you bought it, if you're playing it, you're enjoying it, that's all that matters.
Yeah, who cares?
People don't like things that I like. Okay. I'm not going to be like, you need to like it.
Yeah.
I don't understand that mindset. I really don't.
Listen, I'm a Final Fantasy and a Sonic fan. I know a thing or two about people just shitting on the games that I like. And listen, a lot of points are valid. However, I do not give a shit. I will boot up Final Fantasy 13. I will boot up Final Fantasy 15. I will boot up Sonic Heroes, Sonic Adventure. I do not give a shit. I am so sorry. I am actually not sorry at all. Like, it's just like someone disliking something doesn't take away from you liking it. And it doesn't mean that you're wrong or they're wrong, because it's an opinion. Opinions cannot be wrong or right. It's just your opinion. But speaking of our opinions and what we're doing, let's move on to our last segment of the day really quickly. Just playing things. Ding, 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 ding. So y'all, what has everyone been playing these days? Because we haven't been doing this little segment. But yes, what Koga just left. He was like, listen, I don't want to talk about him.
I'm out here.
Get the fire exit door. I'm off. I gotta go.
Charter, please.
But yeah, we can start with Koga. Since you just decided to leave.
Run away.
I came back. That's what matters. So I've been playing a lot of Yakuza Kiwami 2. I've gone through 0, Kiwami 1, and now going to this one. And of course, I'll be going into the other ones when they start coming out. I like it a lot, and I'm trying to take my time with this more and do more of the side quests, because at the beginning of the game, they let you do like a flashback so you can see what happened in the last game. And apparently there was a side quest in the last game, because I was like just going through the main stuff that happened, and it kind of mattered. And I'm like, I didn't know that. I didn't even encounter it. So I'm like, I don't want that to happen again. But I am enjoying it, going through this series so much. Like that's why like I was just freaking out when they announced that the rest of them were coming to PC during the Game Awards.
Yeah,
and I can't wait.
Yes. I've been continuing to play Final Fantasy VII Remake. I may or may not have started a second save file to play off stream, because I couldn't wait until I play it on stream. So that may have happened. I may already be replaying the game.
I love that.
With Japanese voice acting just to compare. And I've already caught a couple tidbits from the beginning that I was like, ooh, they're dropping hints, Your Honor, and I didn't even notice it. So there's that. I've started Celeste, like I said. I love that game. I'm in love with that game. I'm not usually a person that likes repetition with games. Like, you fall and, oh no, I have to redo the whole thing. But Celeste kind of has a really good vibe about, like, if you... They're always encouraging, right? Like, it doesn't come from a place of, like, get good. Like, no, they're like, it's okay if you die. It just means that you're learning. You know, like, the game is, like, very reassuring. And it's challenging, but not, like, cruel about it. And usually when you die or when you fall, you're like, that was my bad. I know what I did. It wasn't the game just being rotted. Which I can't always say the same for Banjo-Kazooie, which is another game that I'm playing. In that game, when you die, sometimes you're like, all I wanted was to tilt the camera just a little bit. Or like, I didn't even see the enemy coming because he was around the corner. And guess what? I can't see what's around the corner. So yeah, let's just say that modern technology and save states have made my experience better. Let's just say that.
Truly.
What about you, Spin?
Speaking of games that people have some strong opinions on, I just started a playthrough of Final Fantasy 13, and
there you go.
I've played Final Fantasy 13 several times, like over the past 10 years or so, and so this is the first time I'm getting into it on stream, and it's been so fun, like, seeing everyone's reactions to it and like experiencing that with everybody. So that's been really nice, and it's been a nice break from Mario 64, which the controls in that game are cursed.
They are.
Rotted.
So it's been really fun doing that, and I'm excited to keep doing that. Off stream, I started Dragon Quest XI, which just came out on Game Pass, and I have been loving that so far. I'm not super far in, but I'm feeling my RPG like life with Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest.
Yeah. There's some themes in there.
Dropping some hints that I was like craving an RPG.
Is it your first Dragon Quest?
No, I played Dragon Quest 9 on the DS. Like back when that was released, and I remember really loving that game. So I'm really excited to get into like a nice like 3D graphics Dragon Quest on a PC. And it's been really fun so far.
Nice.
What have you been up to, Jam?
I've been doing some gaming things and some not so gaming things, but I've been playing a lot of Dead Cells, and then also I've been playing the original Final Fantasy VII because it's on Game Pass, and I've been playing that, and it's been interesting because I remember not being super into it as much as a kid, because the Final Fantasy games haven't been my cup of tea, and I still feel like it's probably not my cup of tea, but I want to get through this game because it was such a big part of my childhood that I want to like fully play it through. So I'm excited to get through that. And then being a big old nerd and like watching FDA briefings on, vaccines, because that's me.
I love that.
I love that.
Yeah, so a little bit of a variety. We have some platformers, we have some beat 'em ups, action adventure, RPG moments. We love that. But yeah, you can support us on Just Gaming Tingz on Twitch, on Twitter. Look us up on YouTube and your favorite podcast services, because obviously for those, especially for the platforms, we don't really have a little link that we could give you. But for YouTube, please do subscribe on there, because we will eventually, within 2021, start uploading non-podcast videos. So, and we also would love a custom URL. So please do support us on there. And you can also support us individually. And let's go down the line, Jam.
You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch at jam_5899, and on my Twitch channel we read through science papers. I answer your questions about biology and vaccines. We play Cuphead. Every once in a while we probably play DBD if my internet decides to hold out and not drop frames. Your Honor, we're doing it.
Yeah.
What about you, Koga?
You can find me on here on Twitch and Twitter at Koga_Jangles. I should be doing Sega Saturn Sunday tomorrow. I know I didn't last week, and I do want to do tomorrow, but I'm going to be honest. My job this week is having me on a huge burnout.
Oh,
and
no.
Unfortunately, I already had to use all my vacation days from when we got a 30-day notice that okay, the lease is. We were on a month-to-month lease because due to COVID-19, so we were still there. So at 30 days, okay, I gotta go, and I use my vacation days to try to find a new place, moving in. So I don't have vacation time right now till the beginning of next year to okay, I need a day away from talking on the phone with these people. So
valid.
I definitely do want to try to do that tomorrow. 'Cause I enjoy going back and playing some of these older games. Some of them I've played, some of them I haven't, and some of them are kind of just, it's questionable how they came out. I probably wouldn't play them back then, but now it's just fun to go back and look at some of them. There's some pretty good hidden gems, especially games that we didn't get over here that Japan did get. So it's just fun to discover new games just remembering just older games, and just I don't know. I guess times they just remember when I was playing the stuff when I was a kid, because I haven't played Saturn games a lot, at least since maybe the early 2000s. So it's been a long time.
Yeah. You can find me at projectruby.eu. That's my website. You can find my Twitch streams in there. You can see my latest YouTube video in there. You can get links for all my socials. That's the easiest way to go about it. And yeah, I'm currently editing. Speaking of Final Fantasy VII, I am editing my Final Fantasy VII playthrough, my first ever playthrough of that game. So I have a lot of footage that I'm going through, and it's gonna take a while. But stay tuned. My latest video is a Resident Evil 2, my Resident Evil 2 experience. So you can watch the whole thing in one sitting and get the highlights, the lowlights, the story reactions, all the fun stuff from that game. Yeah, and I already talked about what I'm playing, and most of those, if not all of those, were on stream anyway. So just check me out if you can. Ooh. Also, also, my non-gaming podcast is coming soon called Breakfast at Ruby's. She's making a return. Very, 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 very soon. So yeah, stay tuned. What about you, Spin?
You can find me on Twitch and Twitter and pretty soon YouTube at Spinblend. I'm working on an Animal Crossing video for YouTube right now. It's been really fun to get into video editing.
I love that.
We are playing Final Fantasy 13, Animal Crossing, Pokemon Shiny Hunts. You can also find me making and selling my own soap on Instagram and Etsy at Spin Soap Cafe. That's what I got going on.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching,
we
everybody.
love it. Yeah, thanks for
you,
watching,
everybody.
It's so good to be back this week. I was very sad that I wasn't here last week. I was oh no.
It's definitely very nice to see all of you. There was a chance that it was going to be a different configuration of people on this day for various reasons. So I'm very grateful that all 4 of us are here today. Hopefully we can get all 5 of us next week. I guess you're just going to have to stay tuned and listen and watch to our podcast and see what configuration of redacteds are going to be here on the next episode.
Yes, the redacteds together.
Bye, everybody. Have a wonderful week. Stay
Bye, y'all.
safe and stay
Bye.
joyful.
Here.
Bye.
You guys are amazing.